guest tonight is familiar to all of you. He is affectionately known as Dr. Drum, as it describes both of his career pursuits. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts virtual studio, Mr. Steve Kefalas. Steve.
Hello. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing great. How are you, sir?
Good, good. I'm definitely looking forward to that Carl Metal Move episode. That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, I had not making that public knowledge yet, but now people know.
It's out. I would love to hear what Metal Move's story is. Like, where did he come from? You know, I mean, his upbringing.
Yeah, I've got some time to kind of get all my homework together.
Exactly. He would have liked your guest earlier today. You interviewed one of the members of Obituary.
Yeah,
today, I understand, right?
Yeah, I had Terry
That is
Butler
awesome.
on.
Yeah, awesome.
I was so happy that he could do it. We were supposed to do it last Sunday, and he actually had a family thing going on. And,
Yeah.
Everything's okay now.
Yeah.
So he could join us, and they're going to be doing what you guys have been doing. They're going to be doing 3 live stream concerts starting next Saturday.
No kidding. Awesome.
Yeah. So I was fortunate. I met Terry 3 years ago, and he's like the nicest, laid back guy. And then when you look at all the huge death metal bands he's been in over the years, just like, holy crap. I mean,
awesome. Yeah. I saw them probably 10 years ago, at least, if not probably 12 years ago in New York City. Yeah, they are heavy, man. They're awesome.
Yeah. I didn't see them like in their heyday. I saw them late, like maybe 2016 was the first time I saw them live. Yeah. And holy crap. I mean,
the place just shakes. It's like, you
yeah,
feel that energy. Some of that death metal, a lot of people don't, necessarily appreciate the death metal genre. It sounds like a lot of noise, but it's really a live art form, I feel like. I mean, when you're in the room and you hear the sheer power coming at you, it's just like, it's awesome,
Yeah. And when the show that I saw, they were, like there was 4 death metal bands, so it was like the whole night was just like
yes,
just bludgeoning you. And I remember I was completely drenched in sweat when I left and everything. And it was awesome.
Cathartic. Yeah. You walk out of there and you're just like, I feel like a new human being.
Yeah,
it's a lot of these guys are such, some of my closest friends here are in death metal bands, and they're all so nice and soft spoken and polite. They did some band called Calm did some recording here, over last year. My good friend Christopher John, and boy, they each individually are so nice and so appreciative, and they look scary as hell, but there's something about that genre where I don't know, they get it out or something.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And that came up in the interview with Terry that almost every death metal musician that I've met as a fan or as media or both, they're just like totally down to earth guys. The things they sing about or what they do on stage, once they're off that stage, it's just like they're just like you and me walking down the street, and there's no airs about them at all.
At all.
And that's why, because I still remember when I set up that interview, I was texting with their tour manager, which happened to be their drummer, Donald. And he's like, oh, yeah, come here to the merch table and then I'll meet you there. And then I knew what Donald looked like, and he didn't show up. And then I just saw Terry walking up, and he's huge. I don't know how tall he is, but he's like a big dude.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, is Mark up here? And I'm kind of like, oh, okay. I thought he was bringing me back to where Donald was. And he's like, no, I'm doing the interview with you. It's like, oh, cool, man.
Okay.
Nice. That works too, because I knew all kinds of things about your background, and being around the same age or so. Yeah, we're talking about the same kind of bands that we grew up with and all that kind of thing. And and then Trevor, one of the guitar players, was in there, and he was super nice. And I still remember Terry was like, "Hey, Trevor, are you going to stay for this interview?" He's like, "I'm done talking," and he just walked out.
Oh, okay, done.
He said, "See you later, Mark. You got Terry all to yourself."
A lot of these guys have such vast, diverse influences too. You wouldn't expect. I mean, they listen to all types of music, and it tends to be in this sort of rock genre, but it's like it's all over the map. A lot of sort of southern blues rock, and all sorts of stuff. You're like, okay, they are pulling from a lot of different areas.
Yeah, absolutely true. And I've also found the same thing, even like with a lot of the black metal musicians, same thing.
Yeah.
They love classical music, or they love something some jazz or something. You're kind of like, oh, okay, I didn't realize you're that open minded. It's like, this is where whatever I feel and resonate, then that's what I go with, and that feels my music that I do.
It's crazy, the vocalists too, how they can sustain that amount of, just intensity in the voice. It's just for a whole night. You should hear Tasha's death metal scream. It's awesome. The MKO stuff where she gets really, Tasha has a death metal scream.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yep.
I know some of the fans were talking about they want to hear the aggro Tosh.
Exactly.
Cool, man. Well, so here's how I kind of did this, because I know during the course of the tour, and then, like I just mentioned, after the tour, I'm going to be interviewing all five of you plus Carl / Metal Move. So what I've done is I actually wrote 5 questions, being 5 members of the band, and I'm going to pick just 3 of these to start off with, and then we'll kind of see how we're doing on time.
Cool.
That way I'm kind of equitable with the members. Like I'm curious to see what you guys say about some of the same questions, and then at the same time, you'll get something like the next person, I believe, is going to be Scott on Wednesday. He might get something a little bit different with a little bit of overlap. So
nice.
Let's see. So typically, like I've mentioned on my Instagram, if people want to follow me, that I typically only put topics down at this point. I don't have questions. But yeah, last night I started specifically trying to think of 5 questions that I could ask any member of Alice that hopefully will elicit an interesting response. So
yeah,
let's start with this one. Make sure I circle this. In one word each, describe the other members of Alice.
Oh boy. Okay. I would say Scott, mastermind. I would say Gordon. I'm going to hyphenate it. Musical genius. I'm going to say Sasha Hart. And Tosh is inspiration.
Nice. Yeah.
And I would say me, utility.
Nice. No, you did really.
And Carl, I would say, is like, invaluable. Yeah.
There's a really wonderful, respectful term for him. Based on everything the band's been saying about him, and the things I've even seen, just offline kind of things, that he is just so talented and so can do like everything. And
I mean, geez, he just jumps in and takes on so many different projects and aspects. I mean, he just makes this whole thing come together and run. I mean, he is the newest member of Alice and so instrumental. So it's awesome.
Great. That's great.
That's a good one too.
Okay, so there's one question. Let's see. Here's question number 2.
Okay.
How have your own personal life experiences from childhood to adulthood impacted your work at Alice over the years?
Interesting. Oh man. Personal experiences impacted Alice. Well, I feel like the way I connect, one of the ways I connect to Alice, obviously it's the music is awesome. I love playing with everybody. I mean, but also there's like a heart to it and a soul to it and an empathy to the band. I feel like, growing up for me, I guess that instrumental thing was, as a kid, my dad was in a motorcycle accident and he, broke his neck. So he was quadriplegic in a wheelchair, had no use of his, arms and legs. So I sort of grew up around that, and it probably influenced my path towards medicine as well. But it also sort of gave me an empathy or a way to see things and sort of look at all sides of things and try and understand other people's positions and where they're coming from. And I feel like all of us are sort of kindred spirits in that way, where we're all, sort of bleeding hearts in a way, where we all have real just empathy for people and compassion, and it sort of comes through in the message in our music and in just in our vibe. And it's, I think, one of the reasons that we're so lucky to bring so many people into our world, you know, because it's a genuine kind of appreciation for other people, you know, like yourself and what you do, and you know, everybody who comes into our world. So for me, I think that really led us together. You know, we all came together on tour. I was living in New York, and they were touring as Mankind is Obsolete. I was touring with Android Lust, and we did a tour together, and we instantly got along. I think it was about a month or maybe 6-week tour around the U.S. And boy, we just hit it off immediately, and we became just good friends, even though we were on opposite sides of the country. And you know, from there, you know, when I ended up moving out here, we've been best friends since. So yeah, I feel like that's really influenced it.
Okay, no, that's
Yeah.
that's great. That's things that I wasn't aware of, like with your father, and
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with what you're talking about that empathy aspect of the band. I think it just kind of resonates out to other people that are also empathetic, like myself, and other artists that
Yeah.
are a part of that collective with Alice. And you find out just there's tons of us out here. And initially, sometimes it might seem like it's not that way, but once you kind of realize, it's like, no, there's many more than you ever thought.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And then, you know, in the news these days and stuff, there's a lot of sort of, you know, some sort of hatred and negativity and stuff like that. But I agree with you. I think there are a lot of people that really feel for one another, and that's one of the things that we've been trying to capture here. And it's been a weird time in some ways to be putting out music and art and all that, but we, I think, as a group, all feel like, you know, this is important, and it's something that there are a lot of people that I think can identify with. And so, you know, that's a big part of it. So appreciate you for what you do.
Oh, well, thank you. And like I mentioned, I wouldn't be doing anything that I'm doing virtually without Tosh having messaged me on behalf of the band back in early May.
Nice.
I actually think about that a lot, about anytime I'm doing something right before I go live, of like, so what would I have been doing had this not happened?
I know, right?
It's weird for me to think about and kind of go back, but I'm just kind of one of those people. I do kind of retrace my steps. And I don't think I would have been doing virtual interviews. Something major would have had to happen. Like, Mark, here's this opportunity to do a Skype with so-and-so. And I'd be like, oh, okay, well, let me figure this out. It wouldn't be me saying, I think I'm going to go down this road now. It would have been something had to push me that direction.
It's amazing how fortuitous this was, because, you know, I remember a few years ago, we were talking about putting something like this together. You know, we were like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we could like put together an interview series where we like interviewed all our like close friends and all these people. And then we started to like, you know, mess around with it, and then we did a few, but it never quite, we had so much going on, it never quite got to the priority list. And then here you are doing it, and it's just like, you're doing it so expertly, you know, it's awesome. So, yeah.
Well, feelings mutual, sir. Let's go to the third and last question for you here.
Yeah.
Okay. At some point, everything ends. We know that. When that day comes for Alice, how do you want the band to be remembered?
Interesting. Well, I want us to be remembered as a group that always evolved, that never stopped. I mean, I think we have come so far from the early days, and every time we do something, we add, you know, like these tours. I mean, at first it was like, let's just do this crazy virtual tour, okay, and then the next step was getting all the lights and everything, all the logistics synced up. And then every time we do something, we're adding set pieces, we're adding more material, more songs. That's how Alice has always been, where we just keep moving and we just keep going. And the next thing, there's always a next thing. So it's an evolution in our production, in the music production, in the songwriting, in the music videos, in the people we get to play with and you know, be around. So yeah, I think I'd like us to be remembered as a band that just kept growing and growing and evolving. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I when I first started doing this tour and was talking to some of my friends locally about what I was going to be doing and who
Yeah.
you guys were,
Yeah.
that's one of the things I always talked about is that they don't stand still. They
Mhm.
will continually evolve. I remember Tosh and Sasha told me 3 years ago that all of you are doers. You don't just sit there and think about something and think, well, maybe we'll do it next year. It's like, no, how do we figure this out now?
Yeah.
And that keeps propelling you forward.
Yeah. Put a challenge in front of us like the COVID thing, and all of a sudden we're just like, all right, how can we get this done? And everybody puts their minds to it, and it's gotten better and better each time. I think so. Who knows what next year comes in the following year, and that's also I think what keeps us invested too. It's so fun to like, okay, what's the next thing we're gonna do? We're working on new music. We're playing today, coming up with Tex Nakamura, who's this amazing harpist, harmonica player that we played with, and we just sat down for a sound check and we're like, well, what are we going to do? And Tex had never heard one of the songs we're going to play, and we just did it. And it's like, let's do it. Like, that's just it keeps it fresh, keeps us moving forward. So looking forward to that. That's going to be awesome in about 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, no, I think as for me, as personally as a fan, it's really inspiring to see how you guys go about your business in that way, that you keep trying to evolve, come up with new ideas. How can we add something to make this even better? I remember the first night on Thursday of this tour when I saw the clock.
Yeah, exactly.
So like there's a perfect example of that. It wasn't like seeing the exact same thing we saw on the second leg. Things are changed.
Yeah, I mean, Sasha and Carl went to Home Depot and got a bunch of plywood. They're out in the backyard with skill saws and circular saws. I'm like, this is amazing. You should see Sasha go. I mean, she designed that whole thing. Was out there and we're just like, let's do this. I mean, next up, and you'll see on Tuesday, I think today they just finished Metal Moo's stage. Metal Moo's got his own stage now, and it folds up and it like cranks open. It's a whole thing. It's awesome. So it's like, all right, what's next? As far as the lighting and stuff, I'm doing the lighting design for the tours, and it started out. A couple of years ago, we saw this band, Adrian H. and the Wounds, who's going to be on coming up this. And they inspired us because we didn't have any lights at all. And they literally put up 2 lights, and they just kind of cross-beamed white lights across the stage. It was static. It was one thing, but it was like mesmerizing. We're like, wow, that just changes their whole vibe. Let's do something like that. And it became, okay, buying a couple lights, then a few more, and then more, the spinnies, and then the ones with the... And it's just become more and more elaborate, in the light programming too, from that. So, I mean, I added this tour a lot more electronics, and a lot of the new songs that we're writing are a lot more sort of electronic based. Scott's evolving as far as his keyboard playing and, all of his synth work and all that stuff. I mean, so each and every single one of us is just making strides. So it's cool. Keeps it fun.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. Again, it's something that's really inspiring for someone like myself to see. Maybe if I don't quite have that energy that day, and then I'll watch the live stream and say, oh, look what they're doing now with this. And it could be really not just you guys, but there's a couple other bands out there too that they haven't stayed still during this pandemic.
Oh yeah.
So I'm always like, well, let me see what they're doing and kind of pull something from that if I can, even if it's for something that has nothing to do with it, but just the inspiration piece is there.
Yeah.
And then it propels me forward into whatever I want to start doing. And I mean, I actually
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, we were noticing your difference is in your whole setup too. You have different stuff every night now in the backgrounds, and just your whole interview style and the artists that you're getting and interviewing. And it's really evolved. It's awesome.
Well,
and your own channel too. Yeah.
And again, that's because of you guys. You were the catalyst that got me going. It's like, they're going to be done with the second leg of the tour. I overbooked myself. I should figure this stuff out.
Exactly right.
Yeah, and it's like, but if I didn't feel like I had that kind of, those folks in my corner to kind of get me going, would I have done that? I would have been maybe thinking, well, maybe I'll just do them the third leg. I'll push these guests off. But it's like, well, no, let's try to figure it out now. And sometimes, a publicist might contact me about somebody, so I'll check something out. I said, well, I can maybe do this now, but then do you want to maybe do it when I'm going to be part of this tour with the band Atlas, and we can reach that audience as well. So it just kind of becomes like there's a whole other option for the people that I work with. So that's nice. And I'll tell you this real quick story. So like for the Pacific Northwest Ballet here, which I usually cover, they're going all digital this year, some kind of thing that they're trying to piece together. And I got an email from their publicist, and I was saying, so do you need people to review this? How does this work? Because people are just watching it from home. And he responded back to me with this really long email about like how they're running around with their heads cut off. They don't know exactly what they're doing. And it's, this, Mark, we do want you to review it. You can review the format of it being virtual. You can review all these kind of things. And then he was like, so are you still doing virtual interviews? And that's when I had a chance to go like, here's the list of stuff I've been doing.
Like, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I'm actually doing more than I was back in May when I last talked to you or whenever that was.
I have 70 new interviews or whatever it's up to now. It's like,
yeah, that made me feel good though. It made me feel really good to explain to him that I've been a part of this amazing opportunity to keep things moving during the pandemic. So, and we've got about 6 minutes. So let's see here. I wanted to ask you about, do you foresee yourself staying in medicine? Is it going to be something where you eventually retire as a doctor, or do you think there might be something else down the road for you?
Yeah, I mean, I as music and medicine have been both separately huge parts of my life. I mean, I took a year off of med school to only do music. I went to Full Sail in Florida between my third and fourth year of med school. I'm like, hi, I need to take a year off. And my med school is like, okay, are you going to be doing research or going to Africa to help? And I'm like, no, I'm going to go to music school and learn how to, my way around the studio. And they're like, okay. But I found that, when I only did music, I also started to miss the medicine part of it. So I think in some respects, I will always, that'll always be a part of me. And listen, if we got some, big tours or, we're able to do music full time, I would certainly find a way to do that and take some hiatus from medicine. And I've done that for more longer tours and that kind of a thing. But I'd always find a way to come back and keep my foot in it and work the shifts and, stay connected with it. I mean, the ER is luckily so flexible that I can really put my schedule in. I can say, hey, we are doing a tour 2 weeks coming up. I can't be in the hospital. And they're like, fine. And then I work a bunch of shifts when I come back or whatever. So luckily I have a really understanding and thoughtful boss. So that helps, but yeah.
Okay. What drew you to being an ER physician? Was there something else, like a second runner-up in terms of medicine that you were thinking about, like a family practitioner or something else?
I almost left ER to go into critical care medicine. I mean, growing up with my dad, I saw him go have periods. He lived probably 15 years or so after his accident, but I saw him get really super sick in the hospital a few times. He eventually passed away when I was about 18. But I saw him in the ICU and all that stuff, and I was just enthralled by it. I mean, it's kind of like, some people get really intrigued by it and other people are a little apprehensive. But I was always asking the doctors as a little, kid, like, what's that for? What's that for? And they're like, yeah, kid. But I was like, don't patronize me. I need to know what that drip is for. So I almost went into critical care. Pulmonary is usually how you get through that, or anesthesia. But in the end, I realized that going that route, I'd be a lot more constrained as far as music goes. So in the end, I was like, no, I have to have music. That's the flip side of it, as I cannot do medicine and not have music. I did that for a couple of years, the end of med school, and I went crazy, absolutely nuts. So that's when I took the year off to do it. So yeah, I mean, I steered back to ER. I still get to do critical care in the ER. I love taking care of really, really sick people. That's where, you feel like you're really making a difference, and there's a lot of technical skill to it and all that stuff. And that's what I love to do. So yeah, I'm there for the foreseeable future, at least.
Okay. And Is there any kind of story that obviously you can't go into too many details, but you must have seen so many crazy things in the ER over the years.
Oh my God, so many, so many. I mean, from the, I won't get too gross. The band members know a lot of my gross stories. Some of them involving maggots and all sorts of things. But anything from, I mean, I trained at Bellevue in New York. That's where I did my residency. And I remember there was one case where we had some guy, we saw everybody who was arrested, and from Rikers Island, the prisoners, the jumpsuits and all that. And one of them went to the bathroom and escaped through the vent in the bathroom. And we were like, the officers outside, and was like, he's been in there quite a while, and opened unlocked the door, and sure enough, he's gone. And before you knew it, there was a chase going on through the ER, and tiles are falling down, and the SWAT team is going up after this guy, and it's falling down on patients and stuff like that. It seemed like an episode of ER or something like that. So that was just craziness. But to certain I won't name names, but it's public rap artist who cut off his own genitals, to all sorts of crazy stuff. So, I mean, you name it, all sorts of things in different orifices and all the things. So,
wow. Well, hey,
I'll share it with you in private sometime, I guess.
Yeah, we could talk offline or something about that. I'll bring it up at a fun table.
Exactly.
Well, hey, Steve, I want to thank you. I know we have a packed schedule tonight. So thank you so much for taking the time, for being the first individual member from Alice that I got to interview. I really enjoyed this. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the tour, and obviously what you guys are doing on playing tonight.
Thank you so much, Mark. What you're doing is awesome. It's inspiring, and love watching it every night.
Thank you so much.
Cool.
I will see you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.